And welcome back to Boom and Bust. I'm your host, Tony Clement. I'm here with Jay Goldberg. He is the Interim Director for Ontario for the Canadian Taxpayers Federation. Jay, obviously, part of the emphasis of what we've been talking about is efforts to reduce spending. Does CTF have any ideas where they'd like to focus those spending reductions?
Yeah, absolutely. Look, there's a wage gap here in Ontario, and what we're not talking about certainly isn't talked about enough. It's the gap between the private sector and what government employees are getting. Government employees, there have been a number of studies that show on average they're paid 12% better than people in the private sector. They have all kinds of very generous pension systems and other benefits, all kinds of extra vacation time that people in the private sector just don't have. And so we know that Minister Fedeli has talked about the fact that well over $75 billion of the government's budget goes toward paying the salaries of government employees. And so one of the ways to try to reduce spending certainly would be to have a freeze in place so that we can get to a point where people who work for government are paid in line with people who are working in the private sector. And I think taxpayers expect no less.
And of course, this is really interesting because it does play into some of the other public policy issues. You probably noted, and I've noted as a former Minister of Health myself, that a lot of the opposition to having private independent health facilities uh, as a place to expand, a lot of these operations, whether it's cataracts or what have you. The big opponents of that are the unions, the public sector unions. So it's not only a question of cost, but it's also about how to save our healthcare system or do other things that the government needs to do.
Absolutely. We have atrocious wait times here in Ontario for all kinds of surgeries. I personally know someone who had to wait well over a year to get a hip replacement. People are in pain and things have to change. And I think the Ford government is taking a step in the right direction. And for those who are saying that, this is somehow a move to American style privatized healthcare, I would say, the Ford government is pursuing almost the exact same policy as the NDP EV government in British Columbia
Right.
as a way to try to clear the backlogs and using these private clinics. And so I don't think this is a massive partisan issue. I think it's very common sense. If we can improve outcomes and also bring, smarter elements of the marketplace that is going to both improve outcomes and also hopefully keep costs down, I think both of those are good things. And I think this is a step in the right direction. I also think Premier Ford was very clear in saying that nobody's going to be paying with their credit card; they're going to be paying with their OHIP card. And so, I think a lot of the opposition that we're hearing is really just posturing.
Let's switch gears for a second. Talk a little bit about the CTF stance on corporate subsidies.
Yeah, it's time to get rid of them. We are spending way too much money on giving money to corporations that don't need our help. And I think this is something that could be a cross party consensus. The Ford government announced last year giving over $500 million to Stellantis, which is a Fortune 500 company, to retool a couple of plants here in Ontario for electric car batteries. Look, we want to see business here in Ontario, but the way to do it is not just to cherry pick which businesses stay here and invest here, but to create an environment where every business is going to want to come here. And so, if we're spending billions of dollars a year handing out money to a few different corporations, why not take that same money, lower the corporate tax rate, and attract not only that business to be here and stay here and employ people here, but also to attract businesses from other provinces and other countries? I think it's just common sense. And I don't think people on any side of the political aisle should be supporting a situation in which very rich, wealthy companies are getting taxpayer dollars.
Yeah, the track record of governments, not just the Ontario government, but more generally in picking winners, is not very good, is it?
No, it's been a terrible track record. And, the reality is that the marketplace exists for a reason. It figures out, who's going to succeed and who's not. And, there's a reason the marketplace, has the invisible hand, as we've all heard of. But government is very bad and has a very long track record of spending billions of dollars helping out companies that, are not sustainable, or companies that ultimately become too reliant on the government, or companies that end up closing shop simply because of poor management. And so if you lower the tax rate, that's going to help businesses that are well structured compete and stay in the marketplace and come to Ontario. And that's going to help every company, big and small, including those that will succeed and those that won't.